a girl asked me, like, where are you from? And I told her. And she literally just walked away from me, grabbed the globe that was in the corner of the classroom, put it in front of me, and said, point at it. I don't know if I should be offended or if I should just point at my country. I had come into Augie as a pre-med biology, Spanish, and modern foreign languages triple major with a chem and psychology minor. Yeah, I was a big try-hard back in the day. They originally gifted me the international student scholarship, and then they told me, like, we have to take it away from you. I applied to Augie as an international student, but had to be admitted as a domestic student. My very first religion 110 course, we were talking about Genesis. What was the first command God gave to Adam and Eve? Have sex. And I was just so shocked, and I'm like, he's right. All of us have had these great experiences. If we had to go through it all over again, we would rather trade an A for a B and spend a lot more time making connections.
Welcome back to college. I'm your host, Zach Stevenson, and today in the classroom, we're joined by someone who straddles the line between international student and domestic student. This person moved from Ecuador when they were 12 years old, spending many years struggling to fit in. It wasn't until his time at college where he finally connected with other international students he felt more comfortable and understood. This person is a well-rounded genius, graduating Augustana as a religion and modern foreign languages major with minors in Spanish and biology, and unofficially philosophy as well. He has since become a Blue Devil, attending one of the biggest colleges in the US, pursuing a graduate degree in religious studies at Duke University. Calling from Duke in North Carolina, please enjoy the conversation with Cesar. Cesar Palacios Moscoso. Did I pronounce that correctly?
Yeah.
Welcome back to college.
Thanks for having me.
I'm looking forward to having a chat with you. You've done some pretty cool things after our time together at Augustana, so I'm keen to hear about that. And you are from Ecuador, but is it true to say that you spent some time in the US before you started Augustana?
Yeah, so like you said, I was originally born in Ecuador, in the city of Quito, and my mother actually got a job in Sioux Falls, South Dakota when I was about 12.
Oh, right. Okay.
So, yeah.
So did you move from Quito to Sioux Falls then during that time?
Yeah. I've been living in Sioux Falls ever since.
That's crazy. I
Until
didn't realize.
a little bit ago.
I knew that you'd been in the US. I didn't realize it was actually Sioux Falls specifically. So, well, what high school did you go to then?
I went to Washington High School.
Yeah, right. Okay.
Go Warriors.
That's amazing. So then how did you transition into Augustana then?
Well, during the college application process, I applied to a bunch of different colleges, and a lot of my advisors told me to look into some local schools because all the other ones were out of state. And one of the ones I felt really comfortable in was Augie. And the only other option was USD, University of South Dakota, which is where most people from my high school actually go.
Right, okay. So what was it that was so appealing about Augustana?
Well, I kind of wanted a fresh start. I didn't really want to go back to high school, if that makes sense. So, being a very introverted and shy person, I wanted to challenge myself. And academically, I thought Augie could give me an academic challenge. And personally, I could just find new people and try to socialize a bit more.
Yeah, right. Okay. So you said let's take it back a notch. And if you were a little bit shy and introverted, how was your transition from living in Ecuador to the US then?
Oh, it was hell. I knew English before because I went to a bilingual school. And so I was taught English from a young age. but I never really used it as much as I wanted to. And so coming to the US, I had to really adapt quickly because I was going into middle school and you know how kids are. And so I kind of just learned from my peers and like that's how I got my conversational skills. That and like movies and shows.
So you found it okay to make friends?
Oh, not at the start. Not at the start. Fortunately, like the school I went to was pretty friendly, but I had a tough time kind of relating to people because no one really knew where Ecuador was. And so people are like, "Oh, so which language do you speak? And why are you so quiet?"
that
And
was
I'm just thinking like,
that was
I'm
my
not
first
confident
reaction
on my English.
when I met Mika for the first time. I had no idea what Ecuador even was. I didn't even realize it was a country. Let alone what language you guys spoke or anything like that. So yeah, I could see that very hard to relate to people in the US culture, especially in the middle of the Midwest. A lot of these people aren't particularly, I don't know, open to the world and maybe not familiar with a lot of different cultures. So that must have been pretty difficult for you.
Oh yeah, I remember like one time a girl asked me like, "Where are you from?" And I told her, and she literally just walked away from me, grabbed the globe that was in the corner of the classroom, put it in front of me, and said, "Point at it."
Oh my god.
So that was a pretty big shock, and I was like, I don't know if I should be offended or if I should just point at my country.
That's funny. Okay. Well, yeah. So that obviously a little bit of a shock to come over. Were you excited at all by that opportunity to go to the US, or was it pretty much just because your mum was moving over there, you kind of got dragged along?
I'm not gonna lie, at the start I wasn't too excited. I had my friends back home, and well, my parents are divorced, so that would mean I wouldn't get to see my dad as often. But after a while, I just kind of got used to it. Um, Always hard to do when the winters are so cold, but you just get through it. And the more like friends I met, um, they all just made me feel a little bit more comfortable bit by bit. And I guess like it was during college when I genuinely felt 100% comfortable in Sioux Falls and in the US as a whole.
Yeah, that's amazing. So, what was that? What was it like your sort of first day as you started college at Augustana?
I was really terrified because while I knew that like most people didn't know many other people at Augie, I still felt like I don't want to do the wrong thing. I don't want people to like think a certain way about me. So I was definitely nervous. But it helped that so like a little bit of a backstory. I had obtained my US residency um, right as I was applying for college.
Oh, right. Okay.
So I applied to Augie as an international student, but had to be admitted as a domestic student.
Oh, that's
But
interesting.
yeah, so they still gave me the chance to like go to international student orientation and everything. So I met a few people there, and you know the experience.
Yeah, I mean the international pool of people is the unique group, and I think we all sort of have that shared experience of coming from all sorts of different countries that makes it a bit easier for us to understand each other. It's really interesting what you've been talking about so far because we've never really, you and I have never like dove deep back into sort of how you sort of arrived at Augustana. I find it quite fascinating that you, I guess, technically weren't even an international student by the time you were at Augustana.
Yeah, it was definitely a confusing situation, but the IPO was always really friendly about it and always included me in anything that they did.
So what was the difference then between like that application process? Were you not eligible for certain like scholarships or things like that because you were American resident now?
Yeah, so there's the International Student Scholarship. They originally gifted me that one, and then they told me like we have to take it away from
Oh
you.
no. Oh my
But they
god.
gave me the domestic student one. It was fine. I think it was like $5,000 less than the international student one,
Ah, bugger.
but I, I had a few other ones, so it like balanced out. It was fine.
Yeah, fantastic. Do you have memories of the first sort of people you met when you got to Augustana?
Yes. So during international student orientation,
So you did get to go on
I
that.
kind yeah.
Oh, great, amazing.
I wasn't able to go on the Black Hills trip because my father was in town. And so since it was going to be the last time I was going to be seeing him for a while, I kind of wanted to spend some time with him until he left. And he was going to be leaving like right around the Black Hills trip, like during it. So I wasn't able to go to that, but I went to like the proper orientation.
Yeah, great. So you would have met lots of international students. I think I've got a photo here which would have been pretty early on. This is October 28th. So yeah, probably month and a half into college. I've got a photo with is that going to focus there?
Oh
Do you want to
yeah,
describe to me what's in that?
that's basically my freshman year friend group.
Yeah, that's great. And because it says that I just ripped it off your Instagram. It says one table, 8 different countries.
Yeah, we were a diverse group. And going back to your original question, most of the people that are in that picture are the first people that I met at Augustana.
Yeah, because you came the year after I was there. So yeah, you had a
Yeah,
completely different induction and yeah, met a whole new group of new international students coming through.
yeah, it was exciting. It was exciting. A little bit daunting, like I said, because of me being a little shy. But I quickly opened up to these guys. They were so friendly that it was hard not to.
Did you find it easier to connect with some international students as opposed to American students?
Oh yeah, absolutely. We actually had things in common. One of the people in that picture, David, he was Hispanic as well. And so he's from Venezuela. And so since he was from one of my neighboring countries, it was much easier to like develop a connection. And then just hearing like stories from everyone from their home countries was just so interesting. And unlike my American schoolmates in like middle school and high school, they genuinely wanted to know about Ecuador so I could open up a lot more.
Yeah, that's amazing. I think it almost seems like you've been holding off, 6 or 7 years to start to meet some, more like-minded people that understand some of those shared backgrounds. And then you finally
Exactly.
got it. But
Yeah.
yeah, that's amazing. So what was your major coming into Augustana? What did you decide to study?
I had come into Augie as a pre-med biology, Spanish, and modern foreign languages triple major
My God.
with a chem and psychology minor.
Holy shit, you're just ticking off every single possible thing you can study.
Yeah, I was a big try hard back in the day,
So, and
which
then
is funny because
what did you end up with? Did you end up following through with all those majors and minors?
God no. I ended up as a religion and modern foreign languages double major with a Spanish biology official minors and I think a philosophy unofficial minor. I actually don't know if it's on my degree or not.
Right, okay. That's a huge amount. And I think I remember we sort of met each other a bit later on because you, as we just saw, you sort of had your own friend group. But I remember we sort of kept, passing each other by in the commons a bit more and more. And I think it took me a little bit of a while to really, sit down and make an effort to get to know you because I always sort of, saw you with, another friend group. You're from a different year level. So I thought, oh, like, I don't feel the need to go and talk to this guy. But once we really did sit down and started having some chats together, it became pretty apparent that you were like super switched on and, super smart, super driven, and like really thoughtful in some of the ways that you thought. And I think we had some great conversations in the commons because of that.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, we did have some really great talks.
I think
um,
the only other I feel like when I think of you, a lot of my thoughts immediately get drawn back to all the different Halloweens that we spent together. I feel like for whatever reason, it was just that time of year where I feel like we just seemed to spend the most time together.
well, I feel like you really enjoyed Halloween, and like I always loved Halloween, but I never had anyone to share it with until I met like you and Kevin, Zawad, Aaron, all of them. Because you all had like this same love of the holiday that I did.
Well, it's a bit of
So we
it's
would
very
dress
much a
up.
novelty for us because we don't celebrate it in any of our countries, but we just thought it was the greatest thing that we can just dress up however we want and just have a lot of fun.
Yeah, yeah. And those like the parties were always pretty great.
Do you remember some of
So
the
good
ones we
time all
did? I
around.
think was it your first year? Did we drive like I think it was miles out into I don't know the middle of nowhere where the international group had rented some. I guess what do you even call it? I guess it was like a just a building really out in the middle of nowhere. Do you remember that one?
Yeah, that one was so it was during my second year. So you would have been a junior by then. It was the farewell party
That's
for
right.
some of the Norwegian.
Yeah.
Yeah. That one was pretty fun when we fit like 11 people into Austin's car.
Oh, yeah. Well, that was the whole thing because we were out in the middle of nowhere, but none of us drove, so there was only like I don't know 3 cars for like 30 people.
Yeah, yeah. I convinced my roommate to like drive us over.
Yeah, poor little Austin, so innocent, but yep, having to deal with all the crap.
Oh yeah. I mean, he was a saint, but he deserved it.
Do you want to describe to me what some of the classes were like that you took? How would you say what? Can you remember any of your first classes when you walked in?
Yeah, so one of the classes that sticks out during my first year is the FYS, the first year seminar. I know a lot of other people have talked about it too. And honestly, mine was a little depressing.
Really,
Um, I took the same, actually, I found out through the podcast that I took the same one Malky took.
really, just a year later.
And yeah, yeah, it was dying to know. And so the class was about death and grieving. So such a positive experience during your first year.
Well, Naoki said that it was one of the best classes he took, but you didn't seem to think so.
I loved it. It was just the themes were really hard. because especially I remember we watched a film about a woman that was dying of cancer. And that one really hit home to me because my grandmother passed away from cancer. So I kind of had to relive that with the film. And I enjoyed it a little bit because it gave me some more closure. But at the same time, it was a very heavy film.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah, I'm sorry to hear about your grandmother. I think, yeah, I mean, cancer's not a nice thing, and having to sit in a class where you're sort of talking about death, I think that can be super confronting.
Yeah, yeah. But I'll say I'm very grateful to that class because I've reused a lot of the themes that we explored in that class all throughout my college career and beyond.
Fantastic. Are there any classes that stick out to you, remember just being terrible?
Organic chemistry. Um yeah, organic chemistry was the most horrible class that I took. It was one of the few classes that genuinely made me frustrated and stressed throughout my time at Augie.
What was the hardest part about it?
It was, in part, it was a lot of memorization, but at the same time, you had to learn a lot of different processes. And if you didn't understand one of the processes, you probably wouldn't understand any of the other ones that came after it. So I had a really hard time trying to develop all of those for like homework assignments and lab reports. Oh,
Sounds tough. I did a little bit of chemistry in high school, and I think it probably took me a full year to sort of start to get the hang of it, but by that stage we'd already taken exams and that was it. It's
yeah,
tough.
yeah, you said it.
Do you have are there any other memories at all from Augustana that kind of stick out to you?
Well, most of them just involve hanging out with friends, you know, whether it be drinking at a party or just heading over to a friend's room and watching Lord of the Rings or playing video games. Those were probably my dearest memories.
Yeah, I don't know if I want to show this on the podcast, so if we cut, we'll know that we've we've taken this out. But there's a funny video of you after, well, we're coming back from a night out. It's you and Kevin, and myself.
Hold yourself. Yeah. Yeah.
Hey, Cesar.
Kevin will hold the button
Yeah.
because Kevin is like the savior.
Do you remember this at all?
God, no. That was after the first Halloween party.
That's right, and this is the iconic part though, as we get up back to your room, and your roommate Blake is in there.
Let's see if the door's open.
Yeah, of course it's so. Like,
Yep.
Blake!
Oh, I remember watching this. I don't actually remember being there.
And you just walk in. He's got the lights off. He's probably half asleep. And you just walk in, Blake.
Yeah.
Was that the party that was? I think that was another international student party that we had more downtown area.
Yeah, I think it was Colby. He rented an Airbnb
That's right.
like
yeah,
near downtown. Yeah.
yeah, it was a fun night. But obviously, you maybe don't remember too much from it.
Well, like a little bit of backstory to that. Right before that party was the first time I failed an exam
Ah,
in like college.
right.
Fun fact, it was OChem.
Your least
And
favorite.
so I was just, yeah, my least favorite. So I was just really kind of stressed and I wanted to like wind down. And you can see the results.
So you just decided to fully send it.
Yeah. I really wanted to forget about that exam, to be honest.
No, it makes sense. And I think, well, I think that was probably the first time that I saw you in that sort of way, which is totally fine. And it's college. We're supposed to experiment, have fun, try different things. So, yeah,
For
maybe
sure, yeah.
try different coping mechanisms if we don't get the results we want on our exams.
For sure. I got better later on. I found that like being with friends was just way more therapeutic than just drinking myself to like reset my memory.
That's funny. Well, I guess that's pretty good advice for anyone out there. Don't necessarily have to turn
Definitely.
to alcohol, but turn to friends.
Yeah, they'll get you out of the toughest situations.
Who would you say that your best friend at Augustana was?
Oof, that's a loaded question.
Might be hard to pick a favorite.
Yeah, I mean, we had such a great group. So I guess like it just depends on the year because obviously like during my freshman year, I didn't really know that many people. And then sophomore and junior year, I started hanging out more with your group of friends. So, but probably like one of the closest would have had to be like Kevin,
You can't say that because Kevin was one
Aaron,
of mine.
Zawad.
Or
All right.
well, we already had Kevin on the podcast, so I can't ask him again. Who between Cesar and myself, who would you pick?
Oh man, you're going with that like psychology experiment where you both hold a little bit of hay and you're the donkey to like walk over to one of you.
That's exactly right.
It's
So
definitely a hard choice, though.
yeah, yeah. Well, and you're like, I mean, you're right, and I think especially throughout the years, my friends all sort of changed. Yeah, just different years. There was just sort of more different groups I spent more time with, and just sort of evolved over time.
Yeah, I feel like that's just like the rule of college, though,
I think that was
to just
it's
know
great
people.
the fact that because I found high school you kind of there's a real bias between different year levels, but when you get to college, it's honestly like, well, you're all in the same boat. And I think even my freshman year, I had quite a few friends who were seniors, so like that's 3 years difference. But I think we just all got along regardless, and it is kind of like just a level playing field as soon as you're at in college together.
Yeah, I mean, especially with like you and I feel like we bonded when I started taking some more psychology courses because you had already gone through them, but the material was like a little bit different. So we would just like talk about it and like go through everything. And it was just really interesting listening to your perspective of it.
Yeah, yeah, I think you're right. Um, were there with the classes that you took? Did you find that you really learnt a lot of stuff from them?
Some classes more than others. Um, Definitely like the philosophy and religion courses I learned quite a bit from.
Because I remember having some good chats to you, when we were talking all about the philosophy side of things. Yeah, I mean, endless possibilities when you go down that route. Did you have any professors that were particularly good in that department?
Woof. That list is long, but the one that stands out the most is probably Professor Har. He was one of the religion professors, and he's actually the one that got me into the major.
Right, okay. What was so good about him?
He just explained religion in a way that I just hadn't seen before. Um, I mean, I was raised Catholic, and I had like religion courses growing up, especially for like first communion, confirmation. Uh, but he took it in a different way. Like I remember especially like my very first class, like proper religion 110 course with him. We were talking about Genesis, and he just said like, what was the first command God gave to Adam and Eve? And people gave like the normal responses: take care of the earth, take care of the animals, be good. And he's like, nope, have sex. And I was just so shocked, and I'm like, he's right.
He's not wrong here.
And so everything after that, he just started explaining religion um, more with a pluralistic perspective. He would connect Judaism and Islam, Hinduism, Buddhism into Christianity. And I just really enjoyed that.
I think it's interesting that you do bring that up because I found very much the same way the professors in the religion and the philosophy section, because liberal arts we have to take at least some of those classes, and I found all the classes I took in that department were some of my favorite classes just because of the discussions we had, and the professors had years and years, like decades worth of like experience thinking like through all these big ideas and like sharing these not so straightforward ideas with us, and we had some terrific class discussions.
Yeah, the discussions were always great. And yeah, they just put up the material in such a way that it forced you to think critically. And I think that was the aspect that I enjoyed the most.
And it was very much an environment where like no one's opinion, no one's perspective is necessarily right, but like sharing our ideas allows us to reflect on our own beliefs and sort of explore new ideas.
Exactly. I couldn't have explained it better.
Yeah, some of my favorite classes for sure. Just trying to think what else. Anything. So you used to spend your times hanging out with people. Were there particular things, maybe some trips that you went on with some people? Anything like that?
Yeah, so this is going off of college a bit because two of these people had actually graduated by this point. But I remember Aaron stayed in Sioux Falls, and during the pandemic, I lived in Minnesota, and Zawad was in Mankato. So I remember we took a bunch of trips just to go visit Aaron and go to Slim Chickens
Oh my god.
because of tradition.
Good old Slim Chickens. That was sort of that popped up during our time at Augustana, and that place had some bloody good chicken. Some of those chicken tenders were off the chart.
Oh, definitely. I still haven't found a replacement for it, and it makes me sad every day.
You miss it too much. Well, that's great that you kept that sort of tradition going, and you could, yeah, collect Zawad on the way and meet up the three of you guys, just like good old times.
Yeah, exactly. It was just really nice that we were close enough that we could hang out, but far away enough to make it an adventure.
Did you have a favorite flavor of wings or tenders or dipping sauce?
Yeah, I always used to order the Cayenne Ranch and the Inferno.
Oh god. So you like spicy then?
Of course, it's in my blood.
Never forget where I've come from.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's amazing. Were you into video games at all? Because I remember Aaron Zawad and a few others. We used to play a bit of Rocket League together. but I can't remember you ever jumping on that.
I couldn't join in as many games, but there were times when we would just go to Zawad's room and check out his PlayStation.
Yeah, he had the setup going for a little while.
Exactly. Actually, I'll reveal a very sensitive story
Go for it. Please share.
about this. But like as a kid, I used to be an only child. And I always felt hesitant to invite friends over to my house. So while I enjoyed video games, I never actually got to play games with someone other than like my dad before. And one of my fondest memories of Augie is going to Zawad's, playing Gauntlet. And it's like, these people don't care if I'm really crappy at this game. They're just enjoying the time. And that just took a load off of me. And I opened up to everyone there, and I was like, yeah, this is the first time I'm playing video games with friends, and I'm quite enjoying it.
That's an amazing story. Thank you for sharing that. That hits me right here in the heart.
Thank you.
That's I think sort of that point that you touch on is at college we're still kids in many ways. So I mean, simple things like that where you just get to spend an afternoon playing video games with your friends in a dorm room is quite an amazing experience, and you kind of have the freedom to be able to do those sort of activities while you're at college.
Yeah, exactly. Especially since, like in our case, most of our friends, or well, a lot of them lived in the same floor.
Yeah,
So it was just like walking down the hallway.
Yeah, I think were you on the same floor as us? Because there was there was one of the years I think we sort of had a mega floor going with our friend group.
Yeah, it was my.
Yeah, you
Can't
were on
remember
the
if it
same
was
floor.
sophomore year or junior year.
You were
But
with
yeah,
Blake down the end. That's right. And
Stavig 7.
then Kevin was there, and I was there, and then I think Zawad was our VA as well.
No,
Well, he was downstairs maybe.
when I was roommates with Blake, he was the VA at third floor. Our VA was Noah Langley.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, but it was still a fun time. We were all still at Stavig.
Yeah, it is. I love that so much about college, just being, just that whole living space and that sort of community feel where you are, you open your door, you take 3 steps down the corridor and you're at someone else's room. It could be, I was next to Kevin for a year, and like it was amazing to have such a good friend that was right next to me, and then you were just, a couple doors down. Phenomenal. Just see each other brushing your teeth at night, have a quick little chat to see like how the day go, what's coming up.
Yeah, it's always interesting that some of the most interesting conversations took place in the bathroom just because of coincidence.
It is amazing. And yeah, because now, like, I just don't have that at all. I spend very little time with other people. So that's why I love jump on these chats on these podcast calls where we can, relive some of the glory days and have a bit more of a deeper conversation than you would, I don't know, just if you, saw someone out and about.
Yeah, yeah. I'm also like pretty much on my own. So I remember talking to an old friend from Augie and telling him like I would genuinely trade out my own little personal bathroom that I have right now to have that communal bathroom and tiny room at Stop 7 if I can just go back and have y'all close to me again.
Which is, I find so funny because at the beginning it's like, oh my God, I have to share a bathroom with these random people and it's going to be awful. But I guess those tricky situations turn out to be, some of the best parts.
Yeah, it takes some getting used to, but once you do, you kind of just don't even think about it anymore.
That's amazing. All right, so I have a photo of you on graduation day.
Aw, yeah, those are my parents.
And so what was graduation day like? Because you graduated 2021 the year after I did, and that was after our year, we didn't even really have a graduation. We had a drive-through one, but I was long gone out of the US by that stage. So what was graduation day like?
It was hot. It was a bright sunny day, and it had to be outside because we were still like under pandemic rules. And I remember feeling done. Like it finally spoke to me that my college career was over. And after that, I just had no plans.
Well, there's actually the caption. Again, I've just stalked your Instagram, but the caption that you wrote on that post with you and your parents, it read, "2 days ago, the adventure that gifted me the most incredible 4 years of my life came to a close. College taught me that you don't always end with what you start out with, that 4 years can feel like 40, and that the first day seems like yesterday. Augie, thanks for the memories. I'll miss you." And I
Yep.
think it's so well summed up, the fact that it kind of, the 4 years sort of, as we were doing them, felt like an eternity, but then when it sort of finishes, it almost felt like it just went in the blink of an eye.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, when I was writing that, I just thought in all the previous years, a part of me always thought, I really don't want this to end.
I was the same.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like all of us really went through that phase where we just didn't want it to stop.
So, well, you
It just be
obviously... Sorry, keep going.
no, please.
I was just going to ask you, so you obviously enjoyed your time at Augie. I was going to ask you if you could give it a letter grade, what would you give it?
Oh, I should have prepared for this question.
Gut
Why not?
feeling.
I'll give it an A.
An A? Okay.
Yeah,
Why would you give it an A?
because despite all the drawbacks and really low lows, because there obviously were some lows, the highs pretty much overwhelmed them. And it was just such a great time. What can I say?
What were some of the low points for you then?
Well, like I said, I kind of went through friend groups a lot, and the first time wasn't really my choice. Um, Out of the people in that table in the first picture you showed, not many of them remained by my senior year. In fact, my entire freshman year friend group either transferred, dropped out, or had other life things like the military. And so there was time during sophomore year that I was just kind of floating alone. And I think that's when you and Kevin especially like took me into your guys' group. And I kind of stayed there until you all decided to leave because you just had to graduate.
Yeah. It was always inevitable. It was always going to happen.
Yeah, but it happened too soon.
So after graduation then, what did you go on to do?
Right afterward, I decided to take a gap year just so that I could think through what I wanted to do after graduation and travel a bit. But the pandemic and then the conflict in Ukraine canceled all of my plans.
So you were planning to do some travel, were you? Where were you going to go?
I really wanted to go to Jerusalem because of my field. But they had closed down the borders because of the pandemic. And then my second choice was China, but obviously I couldn't go there. And the last one was Russia, and it just had to go and make a conflict.
God. Man, that's rough. Yeah, all the places that you were keen to go to, but obviously, yeah, there's lots of world events that had been happening over the last few years prevented you from going.
Yeah.
So what did you do? What did you do during that time then?
Well, I still traveled. I went back to Ecuador 3 or 4 times, and I visited like different places in the US. I went to Chicago for a bit. I explored a lot of Minnesota. Yeah,
And what did you discover after that gap year that you were going to decide to do next?
that I really needed to get into grad school.
Which is where you are
So I,
now.
yeah, I'm a second year master's student at Duke for religious studies.
Amazing. So how did you end up at Duke?
That was actually one of the colleges I applied for during my undergrad years, and I wasn't able to get in. So I thought, might as well try again.
And they accepted you.
Yeah, and now I'm here living the dream that I had when I was 18.
So I'm very fascinated by that. What's it like being on such a big campus and starting college again from scratch?
It's definitely daunting because unlike Augie, like Augie was contained in like one city block, but Duke spans like the highway.
Oh my god.
So I would always walk to campus, and West Campus, which is the one nearest my apartment, is about 25 minutes away by foot, which is a lot different than the 10 minutes it took me to walk to the Foyland.
Yeah, and you can be on the other side of campus and it still only takes 10 minutes.
Exactly. If I wanted to go from West Campus to East Campus, it would probably take me about 45 to 50 minutes by foot,
That's insane.
and I'd have to walk next to the highway.
Do you have a car to get around?
I do, but I don't have a parking pass. Plus, like, the walks keep me healthy.
So you walk to class then. You'll walk 50 minutes just so you can go to a class.
Yep. It's not the most comfortable thing, but exercise is never comfortable.
Dude, that's crazy. I mean, I would have loved to go to Duke and played basketball there under Coach K. But he's since
Oh,
retired.
definitely.
Yeah. What else about Duke has sort of surprised you or challenged you?
Well, I think undergrad doesn't really prepare you for graduate school because instead of like lectures all day, you kind of just go into these seminar groups, and the professor doesn't really teach as much as we all kind of just talk about the topic, and then suddenly you have a midterm assignment due tomorrow.
Oh, these class discussions are great. You know, good talking points, and then we actually have work that's due. Oh my gosh.
Exactly. Nothing prepared me for that,
So a lot more independent.
but it's definitely.
And so, well, you told me just before that you're pretty stressed out at the moment because you've got midterms coming up.
Yeah, so in the religious studies department, we don't really have exams. We mainly just write essays or do essay-like projects, like a video essay or a compilation video. Most of my classes involve essays, though.
Yeah, I bet they would. Yeah, I guess communicating all those ideas needs to be done in sort of written form.
Yeah,
There's not necessarily a right or
but
wrong answer.
exactly. You have to be really clear, use a lot of sources, and understand the material really well.
So, would you say it's everything that you hoped it to be, though?
No.
No?
It's both better and worse. I didn't think I would be this stressed, but I am learning about some really interesting topics. Like I'm taking a class on Islamic mysticism, and it's always every session is just eye-opening.
So, learning lots but paying the price for it. Okay. And then so is it 2 years and then you get your degree? So you've only got 6 months to go?
Yeah, this is my last year. I have 2 classes to go, and then I have to once again figure out what I want to do with my life.
So you don't have any plans for afterwards?
I do some like tentative plans. I'm thinking of applying to jobs like nearby and seeing what sticks.
In North Carolina?
Um, yes. Just because I don't really feel like moving. Once was enough.
That's fair. So this is your new home base then, North Carolina.
Yeah, it is. It is. I finally have, my own apartment. It's pretty nice. Kind of small, but I don't really need anything else.
Yeah, so it's by yourself then?
Yeah. Peace of mind is always cheaper than rent.
Yeah. That's another good piece of advice. So, Cesar, if you could give someone advice who's maybe thinking about going to college, in the USA, what advice would you give them?
I'd say don't be afraid to talk to everyone. Most people don't know anybody, and regardless of if you know them or not, or if they seem unapproachable, those people are probably the ones that want to be having a conversation with you anyway. And yeah, don't focus too much on studies. The best memories come from friendship, not really from class.
That's very good advice. That seems to be a bit of a common theme that we've had so far in the episodes is people would say, which is kind of a really funny thing, they would study even less at college and they would spend more time with friends. And I'm definitely in the same boat as that. I agree.
Yeah, well, I mean, all of us have had these great experiences. And I think if we had to go through it all over again, we would rather trade an A for a B and spend a lot more time making connections.
Yeah, I think that's a fair trade-off. It is interesting because I guess unless you have a very specific job in mind where maybe you need certain grades, doesn't necessarily like the difference between A and B, may not be that important. But if you get to spend a significant amount more time with your friends, I mean those are the memories that are going to last forever and the ones that you find most meaningful. So the letter grade isn't really that relevant.
Exactly, especially if your situation is like ours and most of your friends are from other countries and at some point they're going to have to go back. So might as well cherish the time that you have with them.
Absolutely. That's great advice. Caesar, is there anything else that you'd like to share? Any memories that sort of bubbled up after we've been talking for the last little while?
Um, well, there's this one, and I think it kind of ties into like the advice. But when one of my freshman year friends, he was an exchange student, when he had to go back to his country, he wrote in this journal I have. And it's basically like a letter saying goodbye and like hoping to see each other again. And so since he left, I would do that with every friend that I knew was going to go, and I didn't really know when they were coming back or when I was going to see them again. So keeping a journal and having people write in it is some of the most therapeutic things you can do, because whenever you're feeling alone or you just kind of need that pick-me-up, you can just grab that book, open it up, and remember all of these people that stood by you in 4 of the greatest years of your life. I'm still missing a page from you, though, because you left so early.
I did. Sorry about that.
No, it wasn't it was my fault, actually. Because I had gone to Sioux Falls, like, to pick up my stuff during the pandemic. And I remember vividly that you and Max, I think you guys were doing something. And I had to leave because I traveled with my mother and she had to go back to Minnesota. So I kind of just said, well, I have to come back and pick up the rest of my stuff anyway. So I'll just see Zach and Max then. Because then I could have like more one-on-one time with both of them, since I would have already seen all the people that I ran into. And by the time I went back, I found out that you and Max had left. I think it was like 2 days later.
We decided that we were going to go. I think we left. We had 1 day to pack up, and then we were on the plane first thing in the morning the following day. So we were out of there. We didn't hang around.
Yeah.
Well,
but I still sent you the long text.
You did.
So that serves as like good enough.
Yeah, and I really appreciate that, all those kind words as well. And I think, well, there'll be some point that we'll meet again where I can maybe write a note in your journal. And I think that's a great way to sort of document your memories as well as the friends that you made at your time at college. It's really a wonderful thing.
Thank you, yeah.
Well, Cesar, I've enjoyed the chat with you. Thank you for coming back to college with me.
Thank you for letting me come back to college with you, Zach. It was a pleasure.